It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, you know. I'm on the Morning Star Drive, you know.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's Tuesday, May 24th, and this is the Morning Star Drive on 117.8. We're on YouTube, so make sure to subscribe, follow us on SoundCloud, and make sure to support us on Patreon. So what is happening on this wonderful Tuesday? We've got current news from around the world, looking into the book of Romans, and thoughts of the week on getting people involved in church programs. All right, everyone, how are you doing today? It is Tuesday. Yes, Monday is over, and we don't have to deal with that first anymore. So now there's no excuses. We can truck along in this amazing week where we need to be united with God. I hope you guys are really enjoying your week, though. Really thankful that you guys are joining us here on the Morning Star Drive. So everyone, let's build this community here. Keep liking and commenting. Want to hear from you guys. See how you're doing. Build the community with each other. Remember, this is all not about growing the channel because this is a members channel. We only grow basically when we evangelize or when we tell other members that there's this great podcast that they can listen to if they don't want to listen to the radio. But this is mainly for growing the community more than anything else. Okay, so here's something this is something kind of funny. I didn't think about it until now. So remember when I went to Houston for 10 days and I was recording my podcast over there? And of course, I'm at a friend's house and I'm recording at the friend's house. And every morning I'd be recording, and they'd this one time they asked me like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" I'm like, no one. I'm just kind of staring at a screen, or I'm just kind of looking into nowhere, just speaking. And they're like, "How do you do that? Like, you sound so excited, or you sound like you're really into it, but you're not talking to anyone." And I never thought about it that way, but yeah, it's for me. It's weird because when I'm talking into this radio podcast, it actually feels like, and I'm going to tell you why this is why participation and liking, commenting is so big for me, because it makes me feel I'm really connecting. So when I'm speaking right now, I can actually envision the people I'm talking to, right? And it's almost like a lecture too, but I'm like talking and I'm hoping you guys are laughing with me. I'm hoping you guys are thinking the same things too. I don't know. Have you guys ever, drop a comment below if you guys have ever thought that too. Like, hey, who are you talking to? Like, how do you do this with like energy, or you're laughing? Like, how do you, even what I'm doing right now, someone was even asking, how do you laugh by yourself? You know what I mean? Like, there's no one around me. I'm just sitting here talking and laughing on my own. And this is kind of why, like, in the future, I do want to extend, I want to grow this podcast where there's not going to just be me. There's going to be like 2 or 3 people talking on this podcast. And I'm hoping that would be something that will happen in the future. But it'll be a lot easier if I can, if I had someone here. But for me, especially during the pandemic, we kind of had no choice. Well, not no choice but to talk to yourself, but because that means you might have gotten crazy if you during the pandemic you're talking to yourself the entire time. But what I'm just trying to say is, yeah, there's a lot of things to think about, a lot of things to do. But I really, really hope that you guys are enjoying this, and I hope you feel like, drop a comment on this. I hope you feel like I'm genuine. Right? Like, I'm not just trying to laugh, like fake laugh, or just try to make it better. I'm actually genuinely speaking to you guys, thinking about you guys while I'm talking. All right. So I don't know. Do you guys feel it's fake, or not fake? Sorry. Fake is probably like a strong word, but do you feel like it's forced? Right? Do you feel like it's forced? Personally, I don't know. I'm just a very social person, so I need to do this, or else I would go crazy during the pandemic. Even if it's talking to an audience that's not even there. In the beginning, there was not that many people even watching, no one commenting, no one really liking and stuff like that either. So for me, I kind of got used to this, but now that there's way more participation, it makes it a lot easier for me to envision who I'm talking to. Right? Even though I might not even know who what your faces look like. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, drop a comment. Tell me what you guys think about that. All right. So it is Tuesday. And of course, we do have what was I going to say next? Oh, I was going to talk about Espresso with Sky. Espresso with Sky, guys, I'm down to my last video. I'm dead serious. It's my last video. I have nothing else after this. So I'm kind of like nervous because I need to start making some more videos while I'm over here, kind of vlogging and think about like other things to talk about. But honestly, I'm like, what do I talk about kind of thing, right? My last video is going to be on, what was it? Oh, it's on Judah and Tamar. Basically, one of the fathers sleeps with his daughter-in-law, right? And God says it's righteous. As crazy as that sounds, right? So it's about Judah and Tamar sleeping with his daughter. Oh, right? And God says it's righteousness. So that's going to be a kind of cool topic that a lot of people can listen to and just understand the words a little bit better, okay? Also, remember last Sunday edition, we met Jason Ong from Malaysia. Great interview, learning about his journey into this history. Super fun as a newcomer, only 6 months in. You guys are going to feel that fire again, what it's like to be, when you're a brand newcomer. So I hope you guys will really enjoy that too. So let's get this show started on the road with, on today's Awesome Tuesday. We're going to start off with the featured artist of the day. Today's featured artist, brand new song that came out last week. This is Justar Aiden Verdi from New Zealand. Great song. This is Busy Bee. And then we'll go to J Root from PMA in Korea with World of Us featuring Seungyeong. And then we'll end things off on a very not light, but a very upbeat note with AG from Japan with Holy Spirit, I Like You, I Love You. And that is the SID remix.
The Babylon bee is too busy to cry, buzzing away, looking for a flower to duck and hide, a worker or a queen. Sometimes I feel like it's the same thing, a princess asleep on a pea. Put off by the smallest of sufferings, but I'm still working on me. If I'm honest, I feel so strange, a fish without water, a cranium without a brain, looking so good for the cameras, but feeling so very average. Where else can I go? There's only one river where living water flows. I already know the answer, the problem is throwing my own hope. When I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. If I'm honest, I like routine, like to go swimming and slip in cups of tea, like seeing blanks on my schedule and filling them with my own woes. Now I'm overthrown and all around me are the people who can't do wrong. I smile and try to let it go. The problem is giving myself hope. To find a mountain where I can scream. I need a place to do my own thing. I need a cave where I can sing and it's funny. There's no one to judge me and I can try this way or that. I don't have to worry about falling flat. But there's work to do. Is this even work too? Who can decide? Is it me? Is it you? Is it God? How far would I go if I could? I go far slower than I should. I'm only as good as how much I produce. Squeeze on my brain and pour out the juice. As much as I grind my nose in the ground, but nobody knows, they don't notice I'm down. I haven't been busy enough. I'm floating too far off. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. I'm in the water and on the boat, both the following sheep and also the goat. Eyes are looking over my shoulder. Here's all my next steps, gets colder. Eyes are over my shoulder, there's all my next step. is too busy to cry, buzzing away, looking for a flower to tuck and hide, a worker or a queen. Sometimes I feel like it's the same thing, a princess asleep on a pea, poured off by this walls of sufferings, but I'm still working on me.
Just a word.
That was AG from Japan with the SID remix of Holy Spirit, I Like You, I Love You. Before that was J-Root from the Paper Music Associates in Korea with World of Us featuring Seungyeong. And of course, featured artist of the day, that was a brand new song that dropped last week from Juice Aiden Verdi over there in New Zealand with the song Busy Bee. All right, so let's get into some world news. What is happening around the world? And of course, this is really important for all of us here, especially as brides of this history and those that are kind of the defenders or the guardians of this world, especially when it comes in the spiritual sense. And just like Sunseam tells us, 3 big reasons why we listen to the news. Number 1 is we need to see what God is doing. Number 2, we need to see the things that we need to report to God about. And last but not least, like the terrible things that happen, the things that we need to comfort God's heart in. Okay? So as usual, let's start off with what is happening in Russia and Ukraine. So if let's kind of do like an overview tracking the Russian invasion. Russian forces appear to be consolidating their positions in the east of the country after using heavy firepower to weaken Ukraine's defenses. These are the latest developments. Bombardment of the Donbas region by Russian forces is intensifying. Russian reinforcements expected to hold positions north of Kharkiv. Now, Russia is also preparing to surround the city of Severodonetsk, and Russia invade. And when we see the very beginning, the actual beginning of the invasion started on February 24th. Right, so it's actually longer than we thought it was. So that's like March, April, May. We're almost into 3 months now. But the good thing is Ukrainian forces retook large areas around Kyiv in early April after Russia abandoned its push towards the capital. Following the withdrawal from the north of Ukraine, Russia has refocused efforts on taking control of the east and south of the country. The UK Ministry of Defense says Russia has likely suffered a similar death toll in the first 3 months of its Ukraine operation to that experienced by the Soviet Union during its 9-year war in Afghanistan. And it also says a combination of factors have led to the high number of casualties for the Russian side, including poor tactics and limited air cover. And when you look at what Russia's doing right now, as they're advancing, they're advancing towards the east, right, or in the east, Russian officials have said its forces are fighting for the complete liberation of the Donbas, which broadly refers to Ukraine's eastern regions of Donetsk and Luhansk, where Russian-backed separatists held significant territory before the invasion. Now, the focus of Russian forces in recent weeks has been around the city of Izium and in the east towards Severodonetsk. Russian troops have taken control of Rubizny and Popasna as they move to surround their target of Severodonetsk. Now, to the north, however, Ukrainian forces have now pushed the majority of Russian forces away from Kharkiv, the country's second largest city. The ISW reports that Russian troops withdrawn from around Kharkiv are now being redeployed to the Donetsk region. And the Ukraine and Russia are constantly working on a peace deal, but Kyiv rules out ceding any land to Russia. So the Ukrainian government says it will not agree a ceasefire deal with Russia that involves giving up any territory. The apparent hardening of Ukraine's position comes a day after President Zelensky said the war could be resolved only through diplomacy. Presidential advisor Mikhailo Podolyak said concessions would lead to an even larger and bloodier Russian offensive. And his comments come as Russia continues attempts to encircle Ukrainian forces defending Severodonetsk in the east. In another development, Polish president, his name is Andrzej Duda, has become the first foreign leader to address the parliament in Kyiv in person. And he received a standing ovation as he declared that only Ukrainians themselves could decide their future. And he also added that Poland would do everything it could to help Ukraine join the EU. However, we talked about this yesterday. France's Europe Minister, Clement Beaune, said in a radio interview on Sunday that it would probably take 15 or 20 years for Ukraine to be accepted as an EU member. So as fighting continued, the General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said in its daily update that Russian forces were trying to break through Ukrainian defenses to reach the administrative borders of the country's easternmost Luhansk region. So that's kind of what's going on over there in the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Let's move over to Taiwan and the U.S. So President Biden of the U.S. vows to defend Taiwan in an apparent U.S. policy shift. So U.S. President Joe Biden has warned China that they are flirting with danger over Taiwan and vowed to intervene militarily to protect the island if it's attacked. Speaking in Japan, he appeared to contradict long-standing U.S. policy in the region, although the White House insisted there had been no departure. Biden drew a parallel between Taiwan and Russia's invasion of Ukraine, prompting an angry rebuke from Beijing. Now, he's on his first tour of Asia as U.S. president, visiting regional allies, and Biden prefaced his remarks saying U.S. policy towards Taiwan has not changed, but his comments in Tokyo are the second time in recent months he has unequivocally stated that the U.S. would defend Taiwan if China attacked, in what has been seen as a change in tone. The U.S. has previously been vague on what it would do in such a situation, and China regards Taiwan as a breakaway province that must be reunified with the mainland. Beijing's foreign ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin insisted Taiwan is an inalienable part of China's territory. There's no room for compromise or concession. The Taiwan question and the Ukraine issue are fundamentally different, he said. To compare those two is absurd, and we once again urge the U.S. to abide by the one China principle. So the U.S. has no official diplomatic ties with Taiwan, but sells arms to it as part of its Taiwan Relations Act, which states that the U.S. must provide the island with the means to defend itself. And at the same time, it maintains formal ties with China and also diplomatically acknowledges China's position that there is only one Chinese government. So that should be quite interesting that Biden is taking this type of a stand with Taiwan now. So let's see what happens there. Let's head over to Canada, where I'm at right now. Well, not exactly where I am, in the same country, but in the East Coast. Right? Nearly 1 million homes lose power in high winds. So nearly 900,000 homes in southern Canada were left without power on Saturday after severe storm hit the provinces of Ontario and Quebec. 7 people were killed by falling trees, and a woman died when a boat capsized in the Ottawa River. Wind gusts reached 132 kilometers an hour during the storm, according to Environment Canada. The power company Hydro One, which covers Ontario, said it would take several days to reconnect every home. Meanwhile, Hydro-Quebec said 550,000 homes lost power, with nearly 400,000 still suffering outages as of 10 a.m. local time on Sunday. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau tweeted on Sunday evening that the federal government was preparing to step in to help those affected, and he was quoted, "The storms that swept across Ontario and Quebec yesterday caused serious damage, claimed several lives, and left many without power." Pictures on Canadian media showed firefighters and utility workers trying to untangle downed power lines and poles that are lying over cars on a road in Ottawa. The town of Uxbridge, about an hour north of Toronto, has declared a state of emergency after the storm left significant damage in its wake. The powerful thunderstorm, which lasted more than 2 hours, felled many trees, disrupted traffic, damaged homes, emergency services inundated with calls for help, and experts said the storm, which spanned across an area of 1,000 kilometers, was caused by a rare phenomenon called derecho. Now, what is derecho? Derecho, these are caused when a fast-moving group of thunderstorms band together and mostly occur during summer months. So prayers go out to the people in Canada, especially that are affected by these windstorms. Okay, so that is the top 3 news going on around the world. Hope you guys got some more things to pray about, more things to think about also. So let's get into some sporting news. What's the top 3 sporting news right now? NBA playoffs. Back to Dallas, Golden State versus Dallas. Didn't think it would happen, but Golden State very easily defeated the Dallas Mavericks 109-100, which means they're up in the series 3-0. And in NBA history, no team has come back from 3-0. 0. So the chances are very, very bad against Dallas. So let's see what happens that next game. Possible sweep. Steph Curry with 31 points, 5 rebounds, 11 assists. Luka Doncic, once again, another 40 points. He had 45 points last game. He had 40 points and 11 rebounds in this game. In NHL playoffs, another big, this is a shocker. Tampa Bay beats Florida again, 5-1. These are the 2 times they've won back-to-back Stanley Cups the last 2 years, and they are hot right now, defeating the Florida Panthers once again. They are now Tampa Bay's leading 3-0. So this does not look good for Florida either. New York Rangers down to 2-0. But they win the third game 3-0 against the Carolina Hurricanes, and now the series is 2-1 for Carolina. And the Battle of Alberta, that's what this was. These are the crazy games. But this one was done pretty well and pretty easily. Edmonton Oilers at home defeat the Calgary Flames 4-1, and now the series is 2-1 for Edmonton, which is quite shocking to see this too. Last but not least in sports, we got golf, the PGA Championship, and it's Justin Thomas that wins in a 3-hole playoff on Sunday against Will Zalatoris. Both players entered the playoff at -5, but interestingly, Thomas entered the final round 7 shots back, right, to start the final round, but he makes it all the way to the playoff and wins. This is his second major title, and he's got 15 wins on the tour, so congratulations to Justin Thomas, all right? So that is the top 3 news in sports and news from around the world. I hope you guys really, really enjoyed that, which leads us into the golden time. Yes, it is a time of praise and worship to the Holy Trinity, and hope that all of us are going to use this time to prepare our hearts. So I hope that we'll enjoy this time. We're going to start off with a wedding banquet of love, oldie but a goodie of Sunseam's new stuff, and then I Cannot Live Without God and the Holy Spirit, and then we'll end things off with an oldie but a goodie. This is Blind Love. So as one body of the Morning Star Drive, let's spend this time giving praise, honor, and glory to the Holy Trinity.
Now the time's come, time for us all to sing the new songs. Everyone come and dance. Wave your arms, move your legs now. Shake your head all around. Move and shake your whole body. Let's sing the new songs of this new history. Let's go. Let's all run. All the praise and glory we offer only to heaven. Everyone rise, come on. Move your body, feel the music, dance as one. Just wave both of your hands, shuffle your feet, while matching the beat and singing with happiness. Ha! Full of joy, God and the Spirit watch. They can't help but laugh, dancing along, dancing with them. We are strengthened, rise up in new story. Let's make this wedding banquet for 1,000 years as we fulfill God's perfect world of love. We'll make it awesome. We'll run without regrets as our souls and spirits live as owners. Forever up in heaven, that great eternal world. We're loving God forever, loving the Holy Spirit now and always. We will live with the Lord forever. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Ho, 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 ho. Let's make this wedding banquet for 1,000 years as we fulfill God's perfect world of love. We'll make it awesome. We'll run without regrets as our souls and spirits live as owners. Forever up in heaven, that great eternal world. We're loving God forever, loving the Holy Spirit now and always. We will live with the Lord forever. We will live with the Lord forever. We will live with the Lord forever. Jump, 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 jump. 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 Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump. Jump, 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 jump.
time. I have lived a life of love. I cannot live without God in my life. I'll always love my God. I cannot live without the Holy Spirit. Only the Holy Spirit. I really can't live without my Lord. My Lord, you are the best. Sarangeo, I love you. I like you very much. You're the best. Whatever happens now, if good or bad, I don't feel worried at all. Their love fulfills me.
There is nothing I can see, though it's right in front of me. Blinded with love for the Lord, I can see nothing but my Lord. I love you, Lord. No matter what hardships I face, it is all right with me. I only look to the Lord. I have become a fool for the Lord, truly. I'm a fool who knows only the Lord. I love you, Lord, with all this heart of mine. I love you, Lord, my love, my dear Lord. Blazing brightly like the sun with the love of the Lord. My tears just cannot stop flowing from my eyes. I love you, Lord, with all this heart of mine. I love you, Lord, my love, my dear Lord. I am happy, truly happy, blinded by the Lord's love, unchanging from the start to
There it is. That is Blind Love. That is an oldie but a goodie. It's like one of Pastor Joan's first songs that she written. I'm not sure if it's the first, but it's one of the first ones she's written. Great song. Hope you guys really enjoyed that. I think a lot of people are reminded of that time during the Holy Spirit movement time. What was it called in the beginning again? It was like the Heaven Holy Spirit movement, was it? The HHSM. Didn't it start off something like that first? And then it moved towards like the Holy Spirit movement. I forget what else. There was another, we had another name for it too. Was it have the word like evolution or revolution in it? I forget what it was, but yeah, that's a great song. Reminds us of the HSM times. But I hope, I don't know. Comment below. Were you guys there for the Holy Spirit movements when this song first originally came out? Where were you too? I'm curious. Just leave in the comments below. Before that was I Cannot Live Without God and the Holy Spirit. And of course, that first song was A Wedding Banquet of Love. All right, so let's get into the word study for today. Now that our hearts are a bit more spiritual, we know that every single Tuesday, we're going in deeper into the scriptures, whether it's historical background, political background, religious, theological background. But this one's going to be on the book of Romans. We did this a couple weeks back. We're going to go a little bit more deeper into it today. We're going to take a look at it more from the perspective of the former faith and how they look at this book. And it's not just how they look at it, it's also the way that we should be looking at it too, because it is a really, really important book. And they say it's the most profound, one of the most profound books in existence. And it's kind of one of those books that is most valued of the Holy Scriptures. And the nickname they have for this book in the former faith is the Cathedral of the Christian Faith. Okay, that's what they call it, the Cathedral of the Christian Faith. And it's got profound theology, very impressive style, and just those two things are reasons enough for it to be kind of assigned as the best book of Paul's. Of all the books of Paul's in the Bible, this is considered to be at the top. Okay, so let's slowly get a little bit more into this book of Romans. Now, when Paul was writing this epistle to the church in Rome, there's a couple things that we need to know about them, okay? And that congregation must have already been in existence for a number of years. Because when Paul writes in Romans chapter 15, he says that I've desired to visit them for these many years. So we know that they've been in existence for a long time. But the second thing we can definitely say is to Paul, which is a very big, to Paul, this church was strong enough to help him carry out further missionary activities. He was asking them for help so he can go into Spain. And also it seemed to have been in a very organized and well-grounded congregation. This is also, you'll see in chapter 15, where it says that the congregation was filled with all knowledge, also able to admonish one another. So the epistle deals with no major error in the church, nor does it have to deal with organizational principles. It was a church that was universally famous, and not merely because it was in Rome. Okay, so the Roman church was a group that had a very large Jewish element, but was also filled with Gentile converts from paganism, both free as well as slaves. And how the church in Rome was started is kind of unclear, but the Roman Catholic view is that Peter founded it. That's kind of the Catholic view. Peter founded it. And then another view is that Roman Christians from Pentecost in Jerusalem made their way there. But it may simply be that several Christian families or groups from Pauline churches in the East settled in Rome and grew together. That's very possible too. And according to the end of the book, there were several congregations meeting in the city at the and when the outbreak of Neronian persecutions, Tacitus says that the Christians in Rome were an immense multitude. Okay, so that's quite interesting background. The place and date of Romans, based on the materials from Acts and the Corinthians epistles, the book of Romans clearly indicates that it was written from Corinth on Paul's third missionary journey. And at that time, Paul still had never visited Rome, but after fulfilling his missions of mercy to Jerusalem, he hoped to go to Rome en route to Spain, and that's also in Romans 15. And at any rate, the book is probably dated around 60 AD, around there. And the chronological order of the Pauline epistles, if you want to know when they were written, the first books written most likely were 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, then Galatians, then Corinthians, and then Romans. Right, so you have the first two books of Thessalonians, then Galatians, then the next two books of Corinthians, and then it's Romans, which is going to be the 6th book right? And then you have Colossians, Ephesians, Philippians, Philemon, Timothy, Titus, and then Second Timothy, right? So even though it's written sixth, Romans is placed first among Paul's letters in the New Testament, not only because it's his longest work, but because it also furnishes a massive and basic theological framework for the whole collection of the apostles' writings, okay? So that's kind of like the basic breakdown of the book. So let's go a little bit more deeply into this church in Rome, okay? So the message of Jesus came early to Rome, and it's probably likely brought there by Jews who had visited Jerusalem at Pentecost. So, it's kind of one of these theories. And returning to their synagogues in Rome, these Jews may have found it easier to convert the God-fearing Gentiles who worshiped with them than to convert their fellow Jews. And, this happened repeatedly in Paul's experiences, whether it was in Asia Minor or Thessalonica, wherever it was, right? But at that time, the emperor was Emperor Claudius, and Emperor Claudius never liked Jews of any kind. And by 49 AD, he had evicted them from the city of Rome. Okay? So bereft of the synagogues, the Gentile Jesus believers began establishing their own house churches, right? So the Jews are kicked out, and the Gentiles began their own house churches. But by 54 CE, right? Or 80, sorry, 54 AD, Claudius was dead. Right, he died, and the eviction edict had expired, so the refugees began returning, all right? So the Jesus Jews who returned to the Gentile house churches in Rome were now on the margins of socioeconomic and religious life in these congregations, and the reverse of the pattern that had characterized their social status in the previous synagogues. So here, Jesus was worshipped, but Jewish food laws and festivals, perhaps even Sabbaths, were not observed. So the stage was set for ethnic tensions on practical everyday levels, and this at least is how a lot of scholars and other Pauline scholars today reconstruct the Roman church situation before Paul wrote his letter. Now, by 56 or 57 AD, Paul is back in Corinth and writes a letter to these Roman believers to be delivered and proclaimed by his benefactor, Phoebe. Okay, and she was a leader of a church in a nearby area. Now, even the restless missionary Paul wants to take his gospel of Jesus further west to Spain, and he plans to visit the Roman house churches on the way, so he can help him. So they can help him prepare for his new venture. Okay, you can find this in Romans chapter 15. Okay. But how can the believers work together if they are divided by ethnicity and social class? Do the Jews criticize do the Jews criticize the Gentiles for the lack of law observances, right? That's in Romans chapter 14. Have they received inadequate hospitality and financial assistance? That's in Romans chapter 12. Or are the Gentiles pulling rank over the Jews since they are now the church leaders? So Paul's letters, they have to be diplomatic and rhetorically persuasive in order to help the divided Roman house churches unite in common cause to bring the gospel to those who have not heard it. Okay, so Paul's thesis for his entire speech is Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. Okay, so we're going to take a look at this here. Romans chapter 1, verse 16 and 17. Let's take a look at this. It says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God that brings salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. For in the gospel, the righteousness of God is revealed, a righteousness that is by faith from first to last. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith." Okay? So when you look at Paul's speech in the book of Romans, it is kind of based on this thesis, right? That the gospel is the power of God to save all those who believe, both Jews and Greeks, and he provides 4 proofs, okay? The book of Romans is organized around these 4 proofs, all right? So we just read that in Romans chapter 1, verse 16, 17, but you can read that all the way to chapter 4, verse 25, and then you have chapter 5 through 8 is a second proof, chapters 9 through 11 is the third, and then the last one is Romans chapter 12 to 15. Okay, so we're going to kind of only look at the structure of Paul's opening arguments, right? And that's kind of looking at like from chapters 1:16 all the way to chapter 3. So here Paul asserts that both Jews and Gentiles need salvation because both groups have sinned equally. apart from Jewish law, God's righteousness has been disclosed through the faithfulness of Jesus Christ for all who believe, and there are no ethnic distinctions, and that's in chapter 3. But first, Paul must expose the sins of Gentile and Jews alike. So in chapter 1, verse 18, he begins with Gentiles. Their core sin is idolatry, suppressing knowledge of the one God, and instead worshiping the created world by making images of human beings, birds, or animals. Okay? Their punishment is that God hands them over to the results of their twisted sexual passions and addictions, as well as to the results of many other kinds of evil, such as envy, murder, strife, deceit, rebellion against parents, and much more. Now, as Phoebe reads Paul's speech, we can imagine Jews sitting smug and self-righteous, knowing that they do obey God's law against these pagan sins. But then from chapter 2, Paul insists that those who judge others for such sins are actually guilty of the same things. So he says there are Gentiles who do not possess a law, but who do instinctively what the law requires. Okay, and that's in chapter 2, verse 14, 15, which is a very famous verse we use, that they are judged by their conscience. And it is not hearers of the law, but the doers of the law who will be justified. So then in chapter 2, verses 17 to 29, Paul lays out the sins of Jews, negating even circumcision if they are not obeying other laws of God. So Paul's point in Romans chapter 1, verses 18 to chapter 2, verse 29, is to show that though both ethnic groups may sin differently, they have both sinned equally. Right? Only through the faithfulness of Christ can they be made righteous together. That's in chapter 3. And in this first proof, Paul is accusing neither Jew nor Gentile believers of all these sins. He's just showing that neither ethnic group is superior to nor can pull rank over the other. Okay? So also, so we have to look at the way that, this is kind of just like that first proof. Right? We're not going to look at all four of them, but this is the very first one. And you can see how Paul does it in such a wise way. He's not just thinking about one side, oh, you guys are bad people, but he's looking at both sides and saying, look, one side is like this and the other side is like this. One doesn't make you better than the other, but it has to do with faith. And that's why when you look at chapters 1 from 16 and on, what he's writing about is all about we are saved by faith. We are righteous because of our faith first, right? And I do really believe that we kind of forget this in Providence because we think more to you have to take action, right? But then a lot of times if you focus too much on action, you lose the foundation of your faith, right? Remember, we are saved first by our faith. We learn the word to gain faith. So we're learning the words. What actions have we taken besides listening to the words? So we listen to the words. We this is what it's saying. Boom, this is what it is. And then when we hear those words and we have faith and believe those words that the person of God has been sent and he is the person God sent, then what happens? That is our faith. That's where faith all begins, right? I talked about this several weeks ago too in the Q&A. The very first thing that matters, and Steve said the biggest thing we can do is to believe in God. That is not an easy thing. It is having faith in this invisible, unseen, unheard, unfeeling God, right? That's the number one thing. Biggest thing we have is our faith in God first and then in the one that he has sent. And that is not something that is taken lightly. It's not a small thing. It is a huge thing more than anything else. And that is the starting point. With that foundation of faith, our actions are on top of that faith, right? Because just like Paul said, you can follow all the words, but if you don't have the faith, if you don't believe, it makes no difference what actions you're taking. That's what he meant by circumcision, right? Just because you're circumcised doesn't mean you're righteous. It's by faith. So in the same way too, a lot of us in Providence sometimes might get into that trap. And what is that trap? The trap is we believe we're in Providence, and then we just start going through the motions and we leave our faith behind. Okay, and that's why this is really such an important part of an important part for us to understand when it comes to understanding the former faith. But understanding the former faith is understanding our foundation, and we need to have that foundation too. Okay, so that is kind of like a small preview into the book of Romans. I hope it's something that you guys are learning a little bit more from. But like I said before too, take a look at the other parts of Romans also. We just looked at proof number 1, right? And we're looking at 3 more proofs that you can take a look at and say, oh, I wonder what Paul's main point is here in chapters 5 through 8. What's his main points in chapters 9 through 12? What's his main point in like when you look at those 3 extra parts, what are the 3 other parts here? Go take a look at them. And I'm sure as we begin to study the words even more deeply, we'll be able to kind of have a better idea of where the foundation of our faith actually comes from. And Paul plays a huge role in this. Okay. All right. So that is the end of the word study for today. That is the book of Romans. Hope you guys really enjoyed that, which means we're going to get into our song of choice for today. Song of choice for today, brand new song. I don't even know who this is. I was listening to Dial Wings, and then they have like recommendations on the side, and I just saw this song. This guy barely has he doesn't even have 300 followers like on his YouTube channel, and I was listening to it, and I love this song. Okay, and this song is called All I Have, and I don't know what his name is, but the name of the channel is Su'u. I don't know what that means. Is it just mean Sue? Right? But I don't even know if he's a K-pop star or anything else. Well, he can't be because he's only got less than 300 subscribers on YouTube. Don't know who it is. Was just listening to it. This Korean singer. He sings in English and Korean. It was just suggested to me by YouTube. Super relaxed and chill song. Like this is one of those songs, just like Flow. You have a convertible, put the top down, open your sunroof, and just drive in the countryside, and you can listen to these songs, and it's really chill. All right. So this is Sue with All I Have.
Told me love will find a way. Trust inside the process, baby. I've grown so impatient, and I can tell you're upset, baby. Too late, you said don't cry, but I can't take it anymore. You fell out of love with time, but I'll be waiting at your door. Baby, give me more. Let me love you just a little bit more. Oh, baby, not ready yet to let go of you. I don't mind when we fight, 'cause you're so divine. Don't lie, you're right. There's summer night, and heaven is begging for an angel back. Obsessive for my darling. It's the way that you move. I don't wanna let you go. My body will fall to pieces, but you got me feeling so uneasy. Heart breaks every time you leave. Stay a little while. I'm a fool, but you know how to let you bring my heart right into two. Where can you reciprocate my feelings, darling? Yeah.
And there it is. That is Sue with All I Have. I don't know, guys. What did you guys think of the song? I thought it was super chill, something you listen to in the car while you're driving. I really enjoyed it. Hope you guys really like that too. I will put the link below if you guys want to listen to it or see what else is on his channel. I think he only has like 3 or 4 songs, so I guess he's pretty new. And he's got less than 300 subscribers. So let's see what he produces in the future, or if he becomes super famous. Okay, so that means we're gonna get into the final segment for today, and today's final segment is going to be on it's the thoughts of the week on how to get your church members or your members more involved in your programs, right? This is something that I think about a lot, and I have talked about this like months, maybe even last year. And this is something I do think that we have to be reminded of this constantly, because one thing that we don't do a lot of is we think that for some odd reason, we think that all the answers, like, we have to get through the word, or only like Sunsim himself has to say it, and then we can do it like that. But we know that Sunsim also talks about people getting advice and talk to experts, and experts will help you with it, right? So when we understand that a lot of times we're trying to do things in a better way, but we realize in the future it's like we just kept doing things in the way that we think is the best way, and it ends up always giving you the same results. And one of the things I want to talk about is, have you guys ever had this? And I'm sure all of you have been through this before. It's basically whenever we have events, and when we have these events, the problem is there's always the same people that are participating. Like, there's these trustworthy people. They are always there all the time, right? And with these people, what do? Like, they're always the ones helping out. It's always the same people. And then the rest of the people you're trying to get into the events and stuff that we do, we struggle, right? We struggle so much with, oh my gosh, like, can we... Like, it's like you're pulling teeth, and you have to like call them, and it's almost like you're dragging them to these events, and you're like, oh, there's newcomers, oh, there's this, oh, there's that, and we're trying our best, but it's just like, it's difficult. It's not an easy thing. And I'm sure many of us have been through this before, right? Have you guys been through this? Right? And I'm going to say that every church has gone through this. There's there's the people, like a very small group of people that are always there. And then there is the other group of people that never come, and you're just a struggle to get them to come every single time. And what I'm going to work on is, this is how the studies, like behavioral science, organizational behavior, have studied how to get more people involved. Okay, so what they call this is, a law of diffusion of innovation. Very, very interesting. Okay, and what happens is, organizations and marketing and all these groups try to figure out how can we get like people to be on board with anything, whether it's buying a product, whether it's buying in on the culture of an organization. That's something that's more important to us, right? And what happens is, they say that there's like this magic number you need to reach, which they call the tipping point, which gets everyone involved, right? So it's kind of like, when you have an iPhone and all of a sudden it just sells like hotcakes. And like, how did it happen like that? And then you see other projects that don't even get close to that. And when it comes to us getting people more involved with our church, getting change to actually happen, there is like research that's been done on this. So if you take take a look at your church or your group, your department, whatever it is, okay? And with that group, you have like 100% of the people, right? So let's just say there's 100 people, okay? Now on average, they say that only about 2.5% of the people, right, are going to be what you call innovators. Right? They are the ones coming up with the big ideas. They're the ones that see the vision. They're the ones like, oh, what about this? Everyone's like, oh my gosh, we should do this, right? So it's only 2.5%. Okay. Now, the next group of people are the ones that are usually the ones that are helping you all the time. And they're called the early adopters, which is anywhere from like usually around 9 to 12%. 9 to 12% are these early adopters. They're the ones that wait in line for a movie when it's opening. They're the ones that wait all night for the iPhone to get it first, right? It's very, very interesting, okay? Because these early adopters, they're willing to sacrifice time, sacrifice money, their energy, anything that reflects their beliefs, right? They're going to put in all that energy and time. Okay, so you're looking at 9 to 12%, which means that the 2.5% plus the 9 to 12 is what? Is going to be anywhere from like 9 to 14%. Okay, anywhere from 9 to 14% is going to be that group of people. So imagine you have a church of 100. You're always going to have these 10 people that are always working with each other. Okay, the 2.5% are the big idea people, and then the 9 to 12% are the earlier adopters. They're the ones, they're always in, like, yeah, for sure, let's do it. Now, here's the group that we're trying to get, and they're called the early majority, and that's 34%. Actually, 68% is the majority. Okay, 68%. And you split it in half to 34 and 34. There's an early majority and a late majority. So what's the difference between the two? Okay? So the late majority, the early majority, they're the ones who first have to see. They have to see other people getting into it first. Okay, so these early majority are usually the people like the new iPhone comes out, they're not too sure about it, but then all of a sudden all these early adopters, like these YouTubers that are like showing the iPhones, like, oh my gosh, and these other influencers putting the iPhone on their social media, and it starts to pop, like all these people getting it early, like, wow, it's amazing, it's so great. Then the early majority come in because people have already tested it out. Okay, the thing we need to know about the majority is the majority are more cynical, right? They're people who they're cynical and practical. That's the majority of your church. They're thinking about what's in it for me. What do I get from this? What if it's not going to work? They're cynical and practical, which is not a bad thing, right? Because why would you want to get into something that you don't even know is good or bad, right? So, it's the early adopters that will try and they take the biggest risk and they will get the biggest gains. And they will get big losses too, but they'll get the biggest gains. However, the early majority, they don't want to take that much risk and they're like, I don't know. But when they see the early adopter saying, this is awesome, then the early majority, 34%, come in. And then the late majority is like, oh my gosh, everyone's getting into this, because by this point, how many people is this now? The late majority and the laggards, which is the remaining like 50% at the end, right? Or like, it's more like 40 something percent, right? So they're now no longer a majority. The late majority sees the early majority, which is 34%, plus the early adopters, 9 to 12%, plus the innovators all getting into it. They're like, wow, everyone's doing it. And then the late majority come in. That's 34%. And of course, you have like the last group of like 15%, they're called laggards, which basically means they have no choice. There's no choice. They have to get into it. There's no choice. Like, for instance, like, old people with flip phones, they don't like smartphones. Now there's no such thing as a flip phone anymore. Everything's a smartphone, which means they have no choice. They come in really, really late, right? So what's supposed to happen here? It's like, well, so how does it reach the early majority? And the problem is that to reach the tipping point to get a lot of people involved, you need 15 to 18%. Now, if you need 15 to 18%, what's the problem? Innovators and early majority accounts for anywhere from what? 10 to 14%? Which means you will never hit the tipping point. Which means what? Which means that this is why the events are always the same with participation. Or when we have this big program you want to do, it doesn't work that way. Right? And this is something that we have to think about very, very carefully when it comes to us trying to make changes in our church. And what happens, what we usually do is we do it that is against human psychology. Now, what does that mean? It means it's against human psychology because what we do in Providence is everyone has to go to this. Everyone must do this. So what happens in that scene when you have like 100 people in your church, they all come to the education or whatever it is, how many of them are really, really gung-ho? Guess what? Probably 10 to 14%, which means 85% are not fully invested. Haven't you guys ever had a lecture where most of the people there are not into it? And you're like, wow, it's so like draining. I've been to lectures where the majority of people there, they shouldn't even be there, right? And it's like, what's going on? It's like we're kind of putting it in the wrong way, because now we're putting people there that don't want to be there, people who are yawning, people who are checking their phones, people are doing things the way that they want to do it, right? And like they're just going there mainly because number one is they're forced, they have to, or they just feel like if they don't go, they'll feel like, oh, then I'll be considered one of the bad people, right? Like there is guilt involved with some of these things too when you say everyone has to go, oh, it's Sunsteam's word kind of thing like that, right? So what we have to understand is, how do we get more people involved when it comes to organizational change, your church culture changing and making things better? Well, the thing is, we're doing it wrong because we're making people go. And what you should be doing is the exact opposite way, right? When it comes to human psychology. Which means that you don't focus on the majority of the church. You focus on the early adopters. And you're like, what? But then they're going to feel left out. Well, the answer is probably most of them don't want to be there anyways, right? So let me give you an example of how to get people really, really, really involved, okay? So, because there's this huge gap. We always get that 10% to 10 to 12% that are always participating, but we can't reach that tipping point of 15 to 18. And we're like, oh, we love these people, but everyone else, it takes so much energy just to get them coming. There's this huge chasm, right? This magical gap that we cannot cross, and every event almost feels the same. Okay? So let me give an example. Let's just say that there's for what I do is a lecture training program. Now, in the lecture training program, I do not invite everyone to come. I don't want the most amount of people there, right? That's the wrong way to do it. I don't want to have people there that don't want to be there. I don't want people there that are just there because, excuse me, sorry, I just sneezed. I'm so sorry, right? I don't want people there that are going to ruin the atmosphere, right? Because if they don't want to be there, why would they be there, right? So what I do is, first, you make a notice that there's going to be lecture training. And the first thing I do is I limit the spots. I'm only taking 10 people. That's it. Just 10. Just 10. Nothing else more than 10. They're like, oh, okay. So then now it gives this rarity, exclusivity, right? And people are like, oh, what's this? Second thing I do is I put another barrier in there to make it a little bit harder, right? So I really, really want those who really want to be there. So you can make them write an essay, or they need to get, maybe like a reference from 2 people or something along that line, or they have to do a video interview, something like that. All right, which gives it a kind of another barrier to get into, right? Just a small one, nothing huge, like an essay, whatever it is, okay? And what happens here is now, because there's even though it's a small barrier, it'll cut out tons of people, because a lot of people don't even want to do it, right? So they're gonna be like, oh, I don't want to do it, so why would I want to write an essay about this, of why I really want to do this? So now you're cutting off a bunch of people, okay? In the end, I take my 10 people. Now, when these 10 people come to the lecture training, then, of course, we do like a one-off or two-off thing, right? And we do this one time, but you have the right people there who really, really want to be there. They come to the workshop, and I don't even allow other leaders to come into it, right? Very limited seating. Only a certain group of people are allowed. And I'm getting the people who really want it. So I'm making things a bit difficult, right? So that only the real ones want to be there. What's going to happen during that time? It's going to be a great atmosphere. People are going to be so into it. People are going to put their own time into it, and they're going to do it because they believe in it. It's something that is close to their beliefs, right? So what's going to happen later? Later is these people who are super into it are going to be the ones that talk about it later. Like, oh my gosh, it was so good. Oh, I can't believe this. It was so this and so. Oh, I learned a lot from this. And they're going to tell others how great it is. That's the same as the early adopters, meaning the people, the YouTubers that, go online and say, look at this phone is so amazing. Oh, this movie was so good, right? That's using the concept of an early adopter, and they're the first ones to see it, right? And what happens is other people, the early majority, they're the ones who are not going to put their time out because they're more cynical and practical. Like, well, is this really a benefit? Is it really that good? But when they see people coming back saying, whoa, it was so good, they're going to be like, oh, really? Man, I got to go watch it, right? And then what's going to happen is it's going to start bringing in the majority. The majority come in next, right? The early majority come in and they're going to be a part of it. They're going to be happy to be there because other people are already talking about it, right? And this is how it begins to get people involved in a program, in events or whatever it is. You need to start thinking about the early adopters first, right? Not thinking about, the entire majority. This is how the mindset works of this group of people. Remember, it's the innovators and the early adopters, they're always in the same group of people. If you have a department of like 10 people, it's probably just you and one more person who's really into it. Probably that's about it, right? And it's you guys that work on it, and then it slowly brings in the early majority, right? The last thing we want to do is when you start to force people and make them come, this is when it becomes tiresome and the whole atmosphere breaks and it gets destroyed. And we have to be those that kind of change that, right? So I'm not saying that everything's going to work like this in this way, but I'm telling you guys that this works in those larger groups more than anything else. And when we understand this and you understand the psychology of human beings better, we're able to lead better and be able to make bigger changes, right? Without doing it in the same way we've always done it. Okay, so that is kind of my thoughts of the week on when it comes to getting more people involved to change the church, to make them more involved. And I hope it's something that you guys can think about too and research more also. Like, I'm not giving you the full breakdown because there's way, way better examples we can give, but we have such a short amount of time here. But I hope you guys really enjoyed that more than anything else. Okay, so that is the end of today's thoughts of the week and the end of today's podcast. Everyone, have an amazing and awesome day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow on the Morning Star Drive on 117.8.
It's the Morning Star Drive 117.8. You soaring up with sky, now's the time, don't delay. I'm sitting in my ride and it's time to fly. So let's realign, just listen and fill your mind.
I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive, I'm burning with desire and the passion. Nobody can stop me when I'm like this. I got my head in the zone, I'm on the Morning Star Drive,